specific instructions that the live stream goes on at 3:10 and I can't start before it does. So you have a full minute to get to know the person next to you, their entire life story. All right, everyone, let's take a deep breath. Welcome to the Isaac Agri Downtown Synagogue. For those who don't know me, I'm Ariana Silverman, and I have the privilege of serving here as the rabbi. And I had the incredible honor of being someone who Sam introduced as my rabbi. As you know, Samantha Woll, Zikrona Livracha, was president of this congregation, the cheerleader behind so many of its dreams, the gorgeous voice on our bima as she chanted our sacred texts, the facilitator of meetings who often struggled to cut off conversation because she was nodding so vigorously at whatever anyone was saying, and she was the person who told me when I was being awesome and when I was being a little crazy. And she was the person who listened to me when I told her she was being awesome and when I told her she was being a little crazy. There are many rabbis who are here who loved Sam and who Sam loved in return. And this afternoon, we will join them in prayer and in study and in service. Many of them are my rabbis and teachers, too. So what I want to offer personally as words of welcome is a reflection of not only what Sam taught me in her life, but what I have seen in this building and in this community in the past 30 days. And I will do it through the words of our sacred texts because that is one of the many languages that Sam and I shared. In Parashat Nitzavim, Moses says, Atam nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, rashechem, shiftechem, ziknechem, v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael, tapchem, nashechem, v'gercha asher bekerev machanecha, mechotev etzecha ad shoev memecha. You stand here this day, all of you, before Adonai your God, your tribal heads, your elders, and your officials, every householder in Israel, your children, your wives, even the stranger within your camp, from the one who draws your water to the one who chops your wood. We are struck, as we read this text, at the diversity of community who stands before God, and I encourage you to look around in this sacred gathering and in the tributes downstairs and in the countless calls and cards and letters and tributes and donations and flowers that have streamed into our synagogue and into the homes of Sam's family. The people who have stood up in the last 30 days to mourn and honor Sam include our synagogue's leaders, our Metro Detroit community's leaders, our city's leaders, our state's leaders, and our nation's officials. People who are homeowners and people struggling to find shelter. people who are 94 years old and people who are 4 years old wrote cards to Sam. People confident in their Jewish identity and people who are learning, people who felt like strangers until they met Sam. People who span the beautiful religious diversity of our city and our nation, people of every gender identity, and literally the people chopping the wood for our roof deck, as well as the people drawing the water to clean our building at night, have offered their condolences and memories of Sam. And the text says that the people assembled in Nitzavim include not just those who were physically present that day, but those who are not. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I am not exaggerating, of people who have been present for this community in the past 30 days and who are here today in spirit. It is staggering. In Nitzavim, the people stand together to enter into a covenant with God, and I invite us today to enter into a specific kind of sacred obligation. We need to be firmly committed to continuing Sam's work in the world. There is so much left to be done, and perhaps that can feel a little overwhelming. But the central way to do it is what we are doing today. Being together, joining in prayer, joining in study, joining in service, and doing what Nitzavim concludes is the most important choice of all, choosing life. We must choose life, even in the face of unspeakable death. That isn't always easy. The other text that echoes in my mind is from the Haftarah reading for the first day of Rosh Hashanah from the book of Samuel. It tells the story of Hannah, and it was chanted for many years by Marty Herman, and then for the past 3 years, and I had hoped for many more, by Samantha Woll. I still hear her voice. One of my favorite parts of the text is when Hannah is praying so fervently that Eli the priest thinks she must be intoxicated. We are often expected to pray and to speak and to mourn with decorum. But sometimes that is impossible. There have been days when many of us in this community, there have been days when I personally have sobbed with an intensity that may have seemed as if there was something wrong with me. And there is. I am not intoxicated. I am sad, and I am sometimes angry, and I am sometimes speechless. So I want to invite us to pray and to mourn and to speak with one another without worrying about what Eli the priest would say. This is an Eli-free zone. Wait a minute, there may be some of you named Eli. I'm sure you are wonderful people. This is an Eli the priest-free zone. Ariana the rabbi, and I would guess some of the other rabbis in this room, would say it is okay to pray and to mourn without coherent words, because sometimes the world does not make sense. And so it is with that conviction and that permission that in a moment we will begin our mincha service, and it is a deep honor and privilege to invite Deborah Anstandig, a friend of the Woll family, to lead us in prayer.
So we have Sidurim, the Sidur Sim Shalom. They're gorgeous Sidurim that are Shabbat-friendly Sidurim. If you are a person, I know this community thought about the books that they would put in the library, and that there was an idea that perhaps you would just have a computer with a Sefaria app. If you don't have access to a Sidur, and you can go to sefaria.org, you can pull up the Mincha service. I'll give you a minute. If you do have a Sim Shalom, it's on page 164. Once again, page 164. I'm going to start with the nigun. Nai, 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 Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Ori Hallelujah Ori Hallelujah Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Ori Hallelujah Ori Hallelujah Sel Ashreyam Shekachalo Shreyam Shadonai Eloah. We'll continue silently to Elohim. Tehilat Adonai Yedaber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Leolam Vaed Va'anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish, followed by a short Amidah. I'll say the first 2 pages out loud, and then we'll continue silently. 166, the middle of the page. Yidkadal v'yidkadash Shemer Abba Mi'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'galal v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shemer Abba mevarach le'olam u'me'olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar V'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha v'chlu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechemata zamiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Avraham Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai Yedim Tarav Leoshia Mashiv Harach Rit Hagashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayei Metim Im Rabim Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim umatir asurim umekayem minato lishenei afar mi chamocha bal givrot umidom melach melech memit umchayeh umatzliach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'achyon metim Baruch Ata Adonai מחיי המתים, נקדש את שמך בעולם, לשם שמקדישים אותו בשמרום. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקראת אל זה ואמר. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאו, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. לעומתם ברוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. If you're continuing to say the Amidah, please continue at your own pace. If you'd like, please join me at the bottom of the first paragraph on 186 for Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. You may be seated. We'll continue with Tachanun, a prayer of supplication. On page 192, there are some that have the custom, because I assume there's a Torah in this ark, to bow their heads. at the square at the top paragraph on 194. Ozreinu Elohei Yisheinu al devar kivod shemecha v'atzilenu v'chaper al chatoteinu leman shemecha. Complete Kaddish on 194. If it's your custom, please stand. Yidkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba ve'almad yivrach erutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol v'Yisrael v'galal v'zman kariv imru amen. Shmei Rabba mevarach le'lam l'meil maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'elma v'imru amen. Titkabal tziloton u'vauton dechol Yisrael kodam avuon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'roma v'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshei tevel v'imru amen. Aleinu on page 196. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol Take a dula liyoser bereshit Shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot Velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama Shelo sam chalkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamon Anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim Bifnei melech malchei hamalchim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shemayim Yosef Haaretz Moshe v'Moshe Hu Eloheinu Al Keinu Kavelecha Nemelech Ki hamalchut shelcha hi u'le'ol me'atimoch b'chavod Kakatu v'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz Bayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad. We continue on page 198 with the Mourner's Kaddish. Yadal. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'le'mei maya. Brichu. Amen. 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 You may be seated. At this time, I invite up Vadim Avshalomov, board member, community leader, to share a few words about Sam.
Yeah, perfect. So this doesn't matter? Okay. Can everyone hear me? Great. The last 30 days have been quite difficult, and there has been very little that offers solace. I imagine many of you are in the same place as me emotionally. I haven't found much comfort in text, study, music, exercise, therapy, or anything like that. I don't have any chachma, any grand wisdom, and how to find some semblance of comfort in the immediate term. I will, however, share two quotes that resonate with me and which I keep close to my heart these days. The first is something that Dana Nessel said in her eulogy. She said, "Sam's killer will not rob us of the memory of her joy and warmth and kindness that she leaves behind in all of us and in all she's done." Over the last weeks, I have seen evidence of Sam's warmth and kindness in her friends. I have literally heard people stop and think out loud, what would Sam do in this instance? And I hope that that continues for a long time. The second is something Jacob Smith said at a joint JCRC-AJC downtown synagogue meeting recently. He said that for those of us who served alongside Sam, may her memory be for a blessing is a call to action. We, the board, staff, and members of the downtown synagogue, which I represent, feel a profound sense of duty to keep Sam's memory for a blessing in perpetuity. We recognize that we did not have a monopoly on her lay leadership. Frankly, learning about all the circles and sectors Sam impacted was a revelation, even for those of us who knew her well. And yet, we know the downtown synagogue held a special place for Sam. It was where she wove a vision for an institution imbued with many of her values: Jewish education, urban living, interfaith work, social justice, inclusivity, and a place that fosters person-to-person connections, i.e. community. She was our president, our joyful leader, and she was taken from us mid-stride. And so we answer the call to action and commit to having Sam's memory be a blessing through all sorts of efforts, some physical and some programmatic, some conspicuous and some inconspicuous, some cerebral and some emotional, some reflective of her universalism, like her commitment to Black-Jewish relations, and some reflective of her particularism, her deep, deep commitment to and knowledge of her Judaism, especially her mastery of multiple liturgical skills. It is quite fitting that we are gathered in the sanctuary, which is, as Dr. Marty Herman recently put it, a setting in which Sam was constantly and joyfully served the needs of the congregation, and one in which she clearly felt comfortably at home. And we commit to all of this, and we commit to doing it in lockstep with her family, with Doug, with Margot, with Ben, and Monica. Ultimately, I pray that linking Sam's memory with all sorts of blessings does, down the line, offer us some communal solace. Zichrona lebracha. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Monica, Sam's sister, for those of you I don't know, which I think most of you I do. Sam was a beautiful soul. She was a tzaddiket, a righteous woman. She was a true gift from God. She was kind, she was compassionate, she elevated others. She believed in people. She believed that people were truly good at their core. Sam was a doer. She fought for justice. She was a connector. She built bridges. She was an example for all of us in how to be better people in this world. As my sister, Sam's love was powerful and strong. There was nothing she would not do for her family. Her family and close friends were her world, and she was ours. She was an example of how to be there for someone. We were so lucky to have the time that we had with her. In this week's Torah portion, Vayetze, Jacob leaves his home and goes on a journey. On the way, he rests and has a dream about a ladder connecting heaven and earth, with angels going up and down. Sam was and still is an angel. The more that I process Sam is gone, the more I believe that her spirit lives on. I envision her as an angel connecting heaven and earth. I believe that Sam's life on earth was meant to connect us to something much greater than ourselves. By always showing true kindness and love for all people, she was a constant reminder of a much more powerful truth where compassion and kindness is the goal. I believe her soul lives on doing her good work, but in another realm, helping others when she needs them the most. She is still with us, smiling, laughing, and of course, nodding. She is with us, listening as intently as she ever did. She is with us, guiding us to make the right choices, to be a little kinder, a little more thoughtful, to consider the other side. What I think she would want us to learn from her physical life is that she believed in the decency and good of all people. She believed that if you were 9 or 90, your ideas, thoughts, and desires were valuable. If you were Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Jewish or black or brown or white or blue, you were more similar than you were different. If you disagreed, you needed to engage more and not less. She also so strongly believed in the power of Judaism. This place, this synagogue, which we are in today, was her home away from home for the last several years. She believed so strongly in its rebirth and in its power to do good for the world. She would want us to remember that there is a humanity beyond ourselves, and it is up to us to sustain and shape it. Finally, my family cannot thank you all enough for being here today and for being here for the last 30 days, for showing up, for making a minyan or a meal, for making a visit or a phone call, for supporting, for encouraging, for loving us so strongly as our hearts broke. It is a time like this that the value of community is truly understood. Sam believed in community so strongly. She dedicated her life to building community, especially here in Detroit. I know that Sam's memory is and will continue to be a blessing. If we all commit to remembering how Sam lived, I know together we can make this world a little brighter. Thank you.
Let's take a breath. In just a moment, I'm going to invite up Rabbi Yael Keller and Rabbi Ariana Silverman. Rabbi Yael is the spiritual leader at the Ann Arbor Orthodox Minyan, where Monica and Ben daven. I did that wrong. And Rabbi Silverman, you've met already here.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Yael, definitely Monica and Ben's rabbi in Ann Arbor, but that's it. You're good. Thank you Thank you to Rabbi Silverman and to Deborah for inviting me to help share some words of Torah today and for us to interact with the text together. I only got to know Sam for such a short while, but I was very, very glad that I had that chance, often sitting around Monica's table, sometimes learning Torah together. And over the past 30 days, I've seen Sam embodied in so many different Jewish texts. Torah readings, Mishnahs, poetry, anything that sort of came through our lives, parts of the Tefillah. And I've started to think of something called Sam's Torah, the Torah that Sam really embodied. And when I thought with Rabbi Silverman about what we should teach together here, I thought about something Deborah had said about how dark the times are now, and how much we need to create light, to find light, to be the light for other people in this difficult time, and how much Sam was that light for everyone in this room and so many more people beyond this space. So we brought you some texts that we thought we would learn a little bit as like a model together, and then turn them over to you to think on them, reflect on them, to engage with the text, to think about what they say and maybe how Sam might have internalized and then embodied those texts as well. Do we want to pass them out? So, yeah. So I apologize for the format of this source sheet. It's all a mystery, but we're gonna walk through it together. I probably would have called it Finding the Light. I would have put our names on it. Sam Sheloshim. It's been a difficult 30 days for everyone. I apologize. The first two texts on this page are ancient texts, Breshit Rabbah and Avodah Zarah. And they're rabbis that are grappling with the question of what happened the first time it got dark. And they're thinking about a physical darkness on some level, but perhaps they're also thinking about a more spiritual darkness. What happens when it gets dark? What do we do? How do we react to the darkness? What is our role? What is God's role? What do we do for each other? And so the first text, Breshit Rabbah, is the ancient midrash that comments on the Torah, on the first book of Genesis, Genesis Rabbah. And they imagine a time at the end of the first week of creation. It had been light, man was created, then there was a miraculous light that functioned for 36 hours, we'll see in the first source. And so it didn't get dark. Man was created, and that first night it stayed light. It stayed light in honor of the Shabbat, perhaps, but then as Shabbat started to close, it started to get dark. Right? What do we do when we're confronted with darkness? That, I think, is what this text is asking us. And then similarly, in the second source, the Gemara from Avodah Zarah, a sort of similarly timed source with rabbis also asking about the darkness, but in terms of the year, the context of the year. So forgetting about the week-to-week qualms of darkness and thinking about what happens when the days get shorter. If you had never lived through a year with adults that behaved normally in December, you might start to panic, right? It is getting darker and darker, less and less light. I'll say in this great state of Michigan, I feel that way for many months of the winter, right? When will we find that light again? How do we get the light back? How does God help us? How are we partners with God? And so I think that what is interesting about these two sources is how different they are, how differently they approach this very same question. So I think what we want to do now, consult with my expert, Rabbi Silverman.
We're running a little behind.
Okay, so we want to spend maybe...
So what we're going to do is 5 minutes. I'll introduce whatever it is, and how we're going to do this. And then they're going to have 10 minutes together, and then we'll come back.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds great. Rabbi Silverman is going to talk a little bit about the great experience of being in chavruta, turning to your partner and sharing Torah. You'll have 10 minutes to chew on these texts. You can read them in English. You can think about questions that come up. Think about the role that Adam plays and the role that God plays, maybe compare and contrast. Think about what you think Sam might have said, how you think Sam might have lived this Torah, how you want to live this Torah. And then we'll come back together and we'll look at the two sources on the back of the page to finish us out.
Okay. Raise your hand if you don't have a source sheet. What? Look at that. That is
I have an extra one.
Okay.
I have an extra one. Raise your hands again if you didn't have one.
So some of you, I'm sure, are so familiar with Chavruta. You've studied it perhaps in rabbinical school. You've studied it your whole life in different Jewish contexts. Some of you are like, what is she talking about? And so this is an opportunity for you to learn together in sacred partnership. And here's the body posture I'm going to encourage you to emulate. First, you're going to lean in. And second, you're going to listen like you've never listened before. And third, when someone says something that you think is really interesting, you're going to nod. Chavruta was emulated, was modeled by Samantha, Woll, Zichrona Livracha, in a way I have never seen before. So part of what we're doing together as we learn text is learning text. And part of what we're doing together is learning what it means to honor somebody's memory. So my challenge to you is to learn text and to learn Sam for the next 10 minutes. Okay? I should have clarified. This is a little bit of choose your own adventure. There is no way we expect you to get through all of the texts on here in 10 minutes. Please choose something that's meaningful to you, and I encourage you to read it out loud to each other as you're learning together.
And if you were to focus on anything, I would focus on the first two texts.
Yeah.
Should.
is that, right, like the candles are the mitzvot, so like we can define that however we want. We don't have to be stuck with the Svat Emet's constraints, right? But like whatever we do brings light to the world. And like we can do that in Sam's memory, we can do that for each other, we can do that for the people of Detroit and Israel, and we're, however broadly you want to think about it.
So what if we think this way? What if you say something about the Svat Emet?
Okay. We can skip the Banu Hashem. It's like a fun song if people recognize it, but I
Right.
think it's okay to skip that too. I could say the same thing about any text. It doesn't really matter. They're all of a thing, I wouldn't read the whole thing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
We ask for their learnings.
Yeah.
You do a little like drash on the Svat Emet, or drash on the Manza Gorman.
That's great.
Okay.
Please take about 2 more minutes. 2 minutes.
What I think is amazing about Amanda Gorman is I was sitting there like crying over inauguration, and I was like, it's like around Parshat Bo, like with the plate.
Yes.
She's talking about the Torah right now. It's amazing, right? Like, and the Svat Emet and Amanda Gorman are saying the same thing in a lot of ways, I think. This is a beautiful room.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. I was saying to Monica, who wants so desperately to feel like Sam's soul is here, I said, I really do. To me, it feels palpable here.
Yes. Yes.
I could see her in this space.
Yes.
It feels like made of Sam and her of it, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
It's not always that you get to find such a spiritual moment. It's very lucky for her.
Do you have a nice singing voice?
No. Sorry.
That's fair.
Better for everyone if I just get out ahead of that.
Me too.
1 more minute. Please take about 1 more minute. So finish the thought, finish the sentence.
Deborah. Oh, do what you need to do. Yes, but do what you need to do first.
She's here. I was about to ask Fati.
I haven't seen her.
Okay.
Okay, so once we're done with this and Stephen starts the thing, I'll look to her. Text her. Do you have a nice voice? You do have a beautiful voice. Will you do some kind of like nigun, bringing back the people together that isn't
Sure, I
too-
can do that same na-na-na. Yeah.
Beautiful.
If we want to sing this, I can also help with that. You don't have to. Only if you want.
Nai, 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 nai. Thank you. So what I would like to encourage us to do as we learn how much wisdom is in this room and how much we each have something to learn and each have something to teach, to hear a little bit about what you learned. And to be clear about that, I don't just mean repeating the absolutely brilliant insight that you had that the world should know, or repeating something that your partner said that they told you in confidence and you're about to announce to an entire room. No, what I mean is you just had a beautiful conversation about some sacred texts, about a sacred person in a sacred community. What's something that you learned? And if you don't have any responses to that, we're going to make you learn for another 10 minutes until you do. Yes, please, Harriet. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm privileged to know your name, but I'm going to ask actually the people introduce themselves so that we don't, because we have many communities coming together. So please. Yes. Thank you, David. That's beautiful. Thank you. Someone else. Yes, please.
My name is Rick Weiner. Alan and I were discussing that notion of light isn't about physical light or physical darkness. It's a metaphor or a process of acquiring knowledge, wisdom, insights. Hopefully, not always, but hopefully, acquiring that as we go on and learn things that I'll always remember about Sam, because the knowledge and the wisdom she brought me.
Mm.
Margot, you described me as a mentor to Sam, and I told you earlier, you have no idea that she taught me.
Mm.
We talked about it.
Mm. Thank you, Rick. Yes, although not as eloquently as Rick did. one of the things that he was talking about was the role that Margot ascribed to him as a mentor in Sam's life, but how much Sam actually in turn taught him, and the beauty of that light. And David was talking about how Adam also learned that he wasn't alone, that there was something else that's bigger than what he was saying. And Harriet was talking about all the different elements of light. And if I didn't say enough about what each of you taught, then please find everyone and tell them some more about it, please. Other folks? Yeah. So Zhenya was talking about how he didn't stop doing the ritual. He didn't take it for granted. Yeah. Some more voices.
No wrong answers.
Thank you.
I appreciated learning in the first passage, the ability to create light being something that we can actively do, and in the second passage, learning patience for the seasons around us, something we don't have control over.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So in the first passage, the ability to create light, to have that active role, and in the second passage, the fact that it happens around us even without our active intervention. All right, one more. Two more. Great. Yes.
Kurt Goldfein. I think the most profound statement I read on the sheet was the Daily Core don't have higher or farther than ourselves.
Thank you, Irv. So we don't have to look farther or wider or higher than ourselves, that it's in our hands. But yeah, Dano, it's in our hands. Yeah, Stacy, was your hand raised?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Stacy. Something that I keep thinking about is the first time Adam experiences darkness. And there's all kinds of amazing stories about him, and Eve's supposed to be there too, and the two of them weeping through the night and then light coming. But the first time you experience a darkness, you don't know that the light is going to come. And but even now, I think, having experience with the light coming up, there are darknesses that feel really, 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 really dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's like the first one.
Hmm.
It's like the first one. So grace of glimpse.
Yeah. Thank you, Stacy. So even though, so maybe the first time where we have darkness and we don't know there's going to be light, we do learn that pattern. But then sometimes even once we've learned it, we feel like we're in a darkness and we're not sure if the light is going to come. One more if anyone would like. I've learned that there are those who are the first to raise their hands. And then there are those who are sitting there thinking, do what I have to say really that important or interesting? And often it turns out it really is. So if there's anyone who's on the fence. No? Okay. I'm delighted that we're going to learn a little bit more about Sfat Emet, and then I get to conclude with another teacher of Torah from just a few years ago.
So the next source on the page is the Sfat Emet. He's a Hasidic master, the late 1800s. And he talks about how in our time, we don't have the same light that we used to have, right? When the temple was standing, there was a big beacon of light in the world, and that light is hidden now. And he talks about what it means to search for that light. And he talks about searching with candles. And he says here in the first paragraph at the end of the third line that the candles are the mitzvot. We need to search within our hearts and souls in order to fulfill a mitzvah with all of our strength. I think that what he's saying there is the light is within us, and we have the ability to externalize it out into the world, whether it's by showing up for services, being kind to someone on the street, giving to charity, right? There are many different ways to find and externalize that light from within us, but it's on us now. It's up to us, the Sfat Emet is saying, right? And so especially at this season, when, right, at that time, the lights were miraculously lit. God came down. How we wish that God could come down and bring Sam back. How we wish that God could come down and teach us how to get out of this really thick darkness where we can't find the light. But the Sfat Emet says, but it's not going to happen. Right, so we need to, with the aid of our Hanukkah candles, to find that hidden light within. Right, we don't need God to come down. We have it. God has given us that power. God has given us that light. And I think that the Sfat Emet is meaning to be our cheerleader. Right, it is a dark time, both in the world at the time of year that we're in, but we have the ability, we can do it, and we can do it the way that we know how to externalize it is by doing mitzvot, by doing good deeds, by doing things for each other, for God, for ourselves. And so I think that power of inwardness, right, we can find the hidden light, is such a beautiful challenge at this time of year, and especially at the end of this very difficult month. So I'll turn it back over to Rabbi Silberman. I put a song that many of you might be familiar with at the top of the page, which I think is similar, and I think that someone over here referenced it, right? You referenced the song that each of us has a small light, but together we are one big light. And so when we're all out in the world, finding our inner light and externalizing it, we are small, but in this room there's a bonfire of light, a bonfire of love that we can remember and draw from in hard times. I'll let you teach the last source. A rabbi from a different generation, a different name.
Yes, a teacher of Torah in our time, Amanda Gorman, and her beautiful poem that she delivered at the presidential inauguration. So we have a tradition now to sing Adon Olam, for those who don't know, at the end of our worship together. Sometimes thank you to Gavri Yaris, to the tune, which you don't realize it is, of This Little Light of Mine until you get to the end. And sometimes I just skip that part because it seems a little cheesy, but Sam would always make sure that we got to the This Little Light of Mine part at the end of Adon Olam. So This Little Light of Mine, I think, is something that that she would remind each of us that we have. And when I get to the last line of Amanda Gorman's beautiful poem, I want to say a little bit more about that. So of course she wrote, "When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that is broken, that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." Her challenge, and I think our challenge, is to be able to see this light, to be able to be this light, and I would suggest that our tradition brings something amazing into that equation, that the bravery can come from each and every person in this room being together. The bravery can come from worship. The bravery can come from our relationship with the divine. The bravery can come from the memory, the blessing of someone's presence in the world. And so let us use that bravery to see, and to be light. With that, it is my distinct privilege to invite my colleague, Rabbi Stephen Rubenstein, to lead us in Marif. And we have more copies of the Siddur. So is there anyone who needs more copies of a weekday Siddur for our Marif service? Rabbi.
Thanks. Mariv begins on page 200. I invite all those who are able to please stand. Adonai Oshia Melech Yanenu Yom Korenu Hu et Adonai Yamborach Baruch Adonai Yamborach Leolam Vaed. Be seated. El Chai v'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Vaed Baruch Atah Adonai Hamari V'Aravim Avad Olam Eitis Okay, Adonai Aleinu V'Yahavadcha Al Tasim Mimenu Leolamim Baruch Atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha V'chol avavcha Uv'chol nafshecha Uv'chol meodecha V'hayu advarim ha'ele Asher anochi mitzavcha Hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibart bam V'shivtecha b'veitecha Uv'lachtecha v'derech Uv'shochvecha uv'kumecha U'kshartam leot al yadecha V'hayu letotafot b'eineinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uv'isharecha Asher anochi mitzvotchem le'ahava et Adonai Elohechem v'chol lavavchem v'chol nafshechem Tiroshcha v'yitzarach v'natat esav b'sad v'techadechot v'savat ha'ishon v'chal ben yivteh v'rachem v'sortem v'rotem lehim acharei mishlachim v'chara afal ha'machayis tashmim v'hadam v'tzitim et shvula v'avaratem v'hem yom ta'edchem v'ayinechem v'limadatem otam epnechem v'mashivtem v'veitecha Mayim al haaretz v'yomer Adonai Yom Shalemo le'Rebbe Yisrael Hakanaf patil techele v'aya lechem letziti turi temot ha'ozam Zimot atov achron yachveinechem asher atem zolim acharchem aman tizkor v'asitam l'chol mitzvotai Tzeiti etchem eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Adonai Elohechem emet. Umalchuto baraton kiblu aleihem Moshe u'bnei Yisrael achanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh Norati lo tosefele Malchutecha ra'u banecha bo ki hayam lifnei Moshe ze li anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed V'nemar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov ugalo mi'er chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום. ושמור צאתנו בואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן אמן. והיה אדוני למלך בכל הארץ ויאמר יהיה אלוהים. ברוך אדוני ביום, ברוך אדוני בלילה, ברוך אדוני בשוכן. בידך אף כי רוחי פדית אותי, אדוני אל אמת, אלוהינו של השמיים. כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. Please rise. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ויעמד יברח ירוטה וימליך מלכותה בחיי חוד ויומכון ובחיי דרכו בית ישראל, והגלה בזמן קריב אמן. יהי שמירה ומבורך לעולמי עולמי, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתברך ומדקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכה שירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה ואמר אמן. We recite the Amidah individually, beginning page 210, concluding on page 220. completed the Amidah, you're welcome to join me. Bottom of page 217. We'll read together in English. We proclaim that you are the Lord our God and God of our ancestors throughout all time. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. We thank you and praise you morning, noon, and night for your miracles which daily attend us, for your wondrous kindnesses. Our lives are in your hand. Our souls are in your charge. You are good with everlasting mercy. You are compassionate with enduring loving kindness. We have always placed our hope in you. Page 222. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ועלמא דברך יראה וימליך מלכותה בחיי חיים ימיכון בחיי דכל בית ישראל, והגלה בזמן קריבים רמי. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם מעלמיא, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמרם בעלמא וימרמן, תתקבל צלותון ואותהון Kodam Avondi Vishmaya Vimru, Amen. Yehe Shlam Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Alam Ko Yisrael Vimru, Amen. Se Shalom Vimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ko Yisrael Vimru, Amen. Aleinu L'Shabeach Adon HaKol Atenu Shelo Asanu Kigoyei Haaretzot V'lo Samanu K'mishpachot Ha'adama Shelo Sam Chalkeinu Kahem Gor Aleinu Anaim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim Adonai melech kol haaretz vayom Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Mourner's Kaddish is on 126. Mourners and those observing your tights to say Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchut v'chayeichon v'yomeichon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael Bagala Vizman Kari Vimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Lam Lomei Umaya Yitbarach V'ar Vitromam Vitnase Vitadar Vitalal Shmei Dekudsha Brichu La'ela Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Damiran Be'alma Vimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya Chaim Aleinu Yal Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Yaseh Shalom Yal Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Please be seated.
May Sam's memory be an eternal blessing. One of the ways that she was a blessing, will be a blessing in the world is through acts of service. And so we are tremendously honored that Repair the World is here with us today, and particularly Rebecca Steinman de Groot, amazing executive director. The service project is optional. The nosh downstairs is also optional, but we're Jews, so I encourage both the noshing and the servicing. Rebecca's going to explain a little bit about what the project is, just so that when you get downstairs, you know what you're going to see in front of you. But part of why we wanted to do the service project the way we will is because we're very hoping that as you do the work, you talk to each other, that we continue this conversation, we continue this sacred dialogue, that you're not saying goodbye in this moment, but that the conversation continues. Rebecca, will you please tell us just one foot what folks can find when they get downstairs? Well, I didn't do it that way. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Hi, everyone. Really grateful to be with you this evening, and really grateful to the family, the friends, and the leadership that wanted to uplift service tonight. Sam's honor. And Tonight we're going to be doing a service project that has connected all community over the course of the day for the Detroit Community Fridge. We started our program this morning with Dor Chadash, a family program, by kit packing wellness kits for the Detroit Community Fridge. They include cough drops and winter supplies. The second portion was finishing off those kits with some socks. We did some education around this at our teen program that I'm just coming from right now. And this evening, we're going to be finishing off those winter wellness kits with tea. We're going to be packing tea bags this evening. So you'll see the tea stations. There's 4 different types of tea downstairs. You'll get to actually pack your own tea bags. And we're going to pre-portion them and put them into the kits. And we're going to be supporting the Detroit Community Fridge through this effort. And the Detroit Community Fridge is a project of 5 mutual aid serviced fridges across our community. It means that nobody owns the fridge. It's people that want to show up for each other in community to support each other and address systems and structures that are not working in relationship to food access. So these 5 fridges in our community create an option for access anonymously, since they sit on the back side of buildings. They're open 24/7, and it allows community to leave what you can and take what you need. So it operates very much like a free little library, and we are very excited because we feel like Sam would have wanted all of us to have a hand in this project, and how amazing that it has touched every generation today and will be completed here tonight. These bags will be going to the fridge within the next 24 hours, especially as the temperatures drop, and we can guarantee that they're going to be utilized almost immediately. We usually go to the fridge the next day and everything's gone. So I want to thank you very much for helping us.
You're not really giving yourself enough credit. This was brilliant. Like the Downtown Synagogue kiddos this morning started this project, and my own kids were like, "We're doing this for Miss Sam?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they're very touched that you're finishing this program tonight for them.
Thank you. Thank you. And so tonight you'll see some tea, and we just ask that if you're going to engage with this project, there is a sink in the corner. We just ask that you wash your hands, and then we have spoons that you'll fill the herbs into the tea bags, a place where you can put them on the side. And if you're around late enough and you want to start pre-portioning those tea bags to go into the kits that are here with us, you're welcome to do that as well. Over the course of the next 24 hours, about anywhere from 400 to 600 kits are going to hit the city of Detroit from the 5 different fridges. So thank you very much, and yeah, really grateful for all of you.
Thank you, Reverend. I don't have a good singing voice, so I'm bringing it back. Okay. All right. We could do a Dona Lum in the soul line.
Are you going to do that? I was going to do the Cloche.
That's much better.
Okay, so on the back of the source sheet, Monica doesn't remember, but we learned this Banu Choshech Legaresh song in first grade at Hillel Day School. Maybe Lana remembers. Vadim knows. Others in the room? Yeah, this is kind of like a Don Olam. If you have any memory of this song, you are invited to participate. This is an Israeli Hanukkah song. Really? No? Come on. Do you remember it? Okay, maybe just Mrs. Traub's class. Okay. Banu choshech legaresh beyadenu or va'esh kol echad hu or katan vechulanu or eitan surah choshech hal ashchor Surah mipnei haor, Surah choshech al hashchor, Surah mipnei haor. Okay, I want to say Shabbat Shalom, but may this this period be a period of nechama, a period of continued comfort. And I want to invite Margot and Doug.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi. This is very impromptu, but we just felt moved to thank each and every one of you for coming, helping us honor the memory of our dear Sam, and I guess your dear Sam, because I didn't realize how many people she touched and reached. But thank you very, very much for all your support, comfort, prayers over the last 30 days.
I just can't add much more. We're very heartened over the outpouring of love and support and comfort that we've received from virtually everybody from all walks of life. So it really means a lot. It's in some way mitigated our tremendous pain, and thank you again for coming.
Travel safely home.